Welcome to the future of factory automation. This program is a broadcast of a Japanese podcast that has been translated into English using Notebook LM. Today, we're diving into something really inventive that one of you shared. It's the creation of a Kotatsu mobility device.
Yeah, basically a heated coffee table on wheels. It sounds wild.
It really does.
So we've been listening to the original source material. It's a Japanese podcast episode called MRARA, and it's all about the person who, dreamed up and actually built this thing for a company idea competition.
And what a story. I mean, this device apparently captured people's imagination online. It properly went viral on Twitter.
Oh yeah, it really took off.
What's also pretty amazing is how fast it happened. Concept to working prototype in, about a week? That's seriously rapid.
It is, and it's not just some garage project either. They actually managed to get it licensed.
Licensed as what?
As a small, special, motor-driven bicycle. It's the same category as those electric kick scooters you see zipping around everywhere now.
No way. So it's actually street legal.
That's right. It's not just a fun gimmick. It's recognized as a real vehicle.
Which means, you could technically drive it on regular roads, even bike paths.
Yep. On public roads and bike paths.
Okay, let's back up a bit. What actually sparked this? I mean, a mobile and Kotatsu. Where does that idea even come from?
Well, the initial push, it seems, was this company idea contest. And there was prize money involved, 100,000 yen.
Ah, okay. About, what, $700, $800 US? Not insignificant.
Exactly. So that was the initial motivator, you could say. It gave them the reason to actually try and build this pretty unique concept.
It really shows how a bit of incentive can drive some pretty out there creativity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That mix of a clear goal and just pure, maybe slightly quirky ingenuity.
Right. So let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does this thing actually move? What's under the hood or under the tabletop?
The mechanics are actually quite clever. It's got independent driving wheels, one on the left, one on the right, kind of like those two-wheeled self-balancing things.
Like a hoverboard base, almost.
Sort of, yeah. And then it has smaller wheels at the front casters just for stability. But the really interesting part, I think, is the motors. They used in-wheel motors.
Okay.
And these have the control units, the drivers, built right in. They communicate using CAN communication.
CAN bus. Okay, yeah. Common in automotive and industrial stuff.
Precisely. Think of it like a shared digital network, lets all the parts talk efficiently, robust. Apparently, the creator initially wanted to use something even faster called EtherCAT.
Oh, right. EtherCAT's super quick.
Yeah, but the cost was just, too high for this initial build. So Canwin was a good compromise, decent performance, more affordable.
Makes sense. And what's coordinating all this? What's the brain?
The brain is an M5 stack microcontroller.
M5 stack.
Yeah.
Those are pretty popular in the maker community, right?
Yeah.
Known for being quite user-friendly.
They really are. And what's fascinating here is that the creator said they weren't like a hardcore coding expert.
Oh, interesting.
They use a programming environment called UI flow. It's basically block-based programming. You snap digital blocks together, kind of like Scratch, if you've ever seen that.
Yeah, visual programming makes it way more accessible.
Totally. And the surprising thing, there was already a library within UI flow specifically for handling the CAN communication with the motor controllers.
Wow, so it really lowers the barrier for entry for this kind of project.
Definitely. You don't need deep C++ skills to get complex hardware talking.
Okay, so that handles the movement, but what about making it road legal? You need lights, signals.
Right. So for that, they used a separate industrial controller. It's made by a company called Wago. The model is CC100.
Wago. Yeah, I know them. Industrial automation components.
Exactly. So the CC100 handles the turn signals, the brake lights, and even making sure it adheres to the speed limits for its vehicle class.
Okay, that's a solid choice for reliability.
It is. Though interestingly, the creator mentioned being a bit disappointed. Apparently, Wago didn't seem super interested in the project when contacted.
Really? You'd think they'd love the publicity. A mobile Kotatsu using their controller.
You would think. Yeah, maybe a bit of a missed opportunity for them. Anyway, the interaction with this Wago controller is also pretty neat.
How so?
They used an iPad, just a regular iPad, but it's connected physically with a wire to the CC100.
Wired connection, okay.
Yeah, and the iPad runs a custom interface, looks like through a web browser, to control all the functions managed by the Wago unit.
So like tapping buttons on the iPad turns the indicators on and off.
Basically, yeah. A standard consumer tablet becomes the command center for those essential road legal functions. Pretty smart interfacing.
That is clever. Okay, let's talk money. Building something like this, especially the first time, it can't have been cheap.
No, definitely not. The initial investment was around 500,000 yen.
Whoa, okay, that's like what, over $3,000 US?
Yeah, roughly. But, and this is important, that was partly covered by the company funding from the idea contest.
Right, okay.
The creator estimates that if someone were to, build one from scratch now, knowing what they know, the actual cost would probably be closer to 150,000 yen.
Ah, okay, that's more like $1,000. Still significant, but a big difference.
It really highlights that gap between a funded prototype, where you might try slightly pricier things first, and the optimized cost for replication.
So what were the big ticket items then? Where did the money go?
Well, the M5 stack itself is pretty cheap, like 5,000 to 7,000 yen, so maybe $40–50. But those servo drivers for the in-wheel motors,
I bet those were pricey.
yeah, they were a major cost, around 50,000 yen each.
Ouch. So 100,000 yen just for the two motor drivers.
Pretty much. And the portable battery system, getting enough power safely, that was another significant chunk of the budget. Those are often the main cost drivers in any EV project, big or small.
Right. Power, storage, and control always add up. Now, getting this thing licensed, navigating Japanese vehicle regulations must have been interesting. How'd they pull that off?
This is where some really clever, pragmatic thinking came in. One key requirement for this vehicle category is a writing device.
A writing device. Like a seat.
Sort of, yeah. Something to sit or stand on securely. But, electric kick scooters often don't have traditional seats.
It's true.
So the creator ingeniously used the flat floor of the Kotatsu itself. They added some non-slip tape and argued successfully that this was the writing device.
That's brilliant, using the inherent feature of the Kotatsu to meet the rule.
Exactly. Turning the Kotatsu-ness into a regulatory advantage. Just fantastic practical problem solving.
Love it. Were there other regulatory hurdles like that?
Yes, another really key decision was about the handlebars. They specifically used a simple bar-style handlebar like you'd see on a scooter or moped.
Okay, seems normal enough. Why was that key?
Because apparently, if they'd used more traditional rounded bicycle-style handlebars, it would have potentially triggered much stricter regulations. Things like mandatory shock absorption systems.
Ah, I see. So the handlebar shape has implications for other required systems.
It seems so. This choice was heavily driven by wanting to get the license plate quickly and avoid getting bogged down in complex, potentially lengthy approval processes for things like suspension testing.
Smart. It shows how deeply you need to understand the rules, or at least find the path of least resistance through them.
Definitely. It was all about practicality and efficient licensing for this first version.
You mentioned earlier they wanted to use CAN for everything, including maybe talking to the Wago controller. What happened with that?
Yeah, that initial idea kind of hit a snag. There was some uncertainty about the exact communication protocol the Wago CC100 uses over CAN.
It's not just standard CAN.
Well, CAN is the base layer, but there are higher level protocols like Canopin. The creator suspected the CC100 might primarily use Canopin.
Okay.
And figuring that out and implementing it would have taken more time than they had for the contest deadline. So they opted for the more direct approach for V1. M5 Stack talks directly to the motor drivers, and the iPad talks to the Wago controller separately.
Gotcha. A pragmatic choice to get it working. But maybe something to revisit.
Exactly. They mentioned potentially looking into that proper CAN integration with the Wago unit in the future. It could simplify the wiring and maybe the control logic.
Right. Okay, so compromise is made. How does it actually perform? You said it's licensed, it can go on roads.
Yeah.
What's it like to drive a Kotatsu? Speed. Limitations.
Well, the initial dream goal was 20 km/h, which is the legal top speed for that small, special, motor-driven bicycle category.
Ambitious.
Yeah. But they quickly realized that hitting that speed would be too complex with the current setup. You'd need more powerful motors, a bigger battery, and fitting all that and a suspension system into the Kotatsu structure. It wasn't feasible for this version.
Makes sense. Space is limited under a coffee table.
Exactly. So the final version has a more, let's say, modest top speed of 8 km.
8 km. Okay, so walking pace is maybe 5, brisk walk 6, 7. So it's a bit faster than walking.
Right. Not setting speed records, but definitely enough to cruise around comfortably, especially in like pedestrian areas or parks where it might be shown.
Still, cruising in a heated table at 8 km, that's got to be a unique experience. Any unexpected challenges during testing?
Oh, absolutely. One really big lesson learned, the critical importance of suspension.
Ah, right. You mentioned they avoided needing it for licensing by using the handlebar.
They did, but avoiding the need for licensing doesn't mean you don't want it for usability. The current model has zero suspension.
Ooh, okay. So bumps must be noticeable.
Very noticeable. Even small bumps in the road apparently lead to significant jolts. And worse, sometimes the jolts are enough to cause the whole system to momentarily shut down. Like maybe a connection rattles loose or the power cuts out briefly.
Yikes. That doesn't sound ideal or safe, really.
No, it's definitely the key area for improvement for ride quality and reliability. Imagine trying to keep your tea from spilling while a whole system might cut out.
Yeah, a bumpy, unreliable kotatsu kind of defeats the purpose of cozy comfort. What about power? That heater must be thirsty.
You are spot on. The Kotatsu's heater itself, drawing 300 watts, actually uses significantly more power than the motors.
Really? How much do the motors use?
They're 100 watts each, so 200 watts total for propulsion versus 300 watts just for heating.
Wow. Okay, so the heating is the main power draw, not the moving.
Pretty much. Which has a big impact on battery life, as you'd expect. They estimate around 10 hours of runtime without the heater on.
10 hours is pretty good.
It is, but turn that heater on and it drops to about 5 hours.
Still, 5 hours of heated mobile lounging. Not bad. Did they test that?
They did some testing at a 3-hour event. Afterwards, the battery still had 68% charge remaining.
Okay, so even using the heater maybe intermittently, it performed well within its estimated range.
Seems like it, yeah. Suggests the motors themselves are reasonably efficient. Oh, and just to clarify one thing, the actual driving, the steering and throttle, that's done via a handlebar integrated into the Kotatsu table itself.
Ah, okay. Not the iPad.
No, the iPad is purely for the Wago controller interface. The lights, signals, that stuff. You need that direct physical connection for steering and speed control.
Makes perfect sense. So what's next for this marvelous mobile kotatsu? Where does it go from here?
Well, that 100,000 yen prize money, that's likely going towards further development. Or maybe just covering the costs of taking it to different events to show it off.
Exhibitions.
Yeah, they plan to exhibit it at future Monozukuri events, that's sort of Japanese for making, manufacturing, creation fairs. And they're hoping to get it to the Tokyo Maker Fair next year.
Cool. It'll definitely turn heads there.
Oh, for sure. Though there's one catch, apparently, as part of the competition rules. They need to keep the device pretty much in its current state for 1 year.
Ah, okay. So major upgrades might have to wait a bit.
Seems like it, but they are thinking about them.
Like what? What's on the upgrade wish list?
Well, definitely revisiting that CAN communication with the Wago controller, getting everything speaking the same language, basically.
Cider integration, yeah.
And suspension, that's high on the list. Adding suspension would make a huge difference to the ride.
And maybe allow them to push that speed limit a bit closer to the 20-kilometer goal.
Potentially, yeah. If the ride is smoother and more stable, exploring higher speeds becomes more feasible. Though the creator did make a joke about it,
Oh?
that any further level ups, as they put it, might be limited by the age-old problem, lack of funds.
Ah, yes. The eternal challenge for inventors and makers everywhere. Budget.
Always a consideration.
You know, one last thing from the Source podcast was kind of interesting. Almost a side note, but it stuck with me. A bit of social commentary.
Oh yeah, about the Kotatsu itself.
Exactly. Apparently, the creator was finding the younger generations in Japan are surprisingly less familiar with traditional kotatsu than you might think.
Yeah, that was a really insightful observation, wasn't it? It kind of makes you think about how cultural touchstones, even everyday objects, can fade over time.
It really does. They mentioned some kids had never actually seen a real kotatsu before encountering this mobile one.
Crazy, right? It just shows how fast things change and how even things you assume are ubiquitous might be receding from common experience.
Puts things in perspective. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating, getting this deep dive into how the kotatsu mobility came to be. It's just a brilliant example of rapid prototyping accessible tech.
And that spark of creativity, right? Thinking outside the box or maybe inside the heated table in this case.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder what other everyday objects are just waiting to be reimagined with a bit of mobility and modern tech.
Indeed. What could you motorize next? The possibilities are kind of endless and maybe a little bit silly, but definitely exciting.
Posting 200 daily episodes. Please follow and comment.